I don't know if you've ever seen any drywall work being done, but it is very, very messy. So we're using ram board to protect the floors, and we are also taping the seams. Now, one thing that is extremely important, especially because we're going to seal these floors, is never, ever, ever tape directly to the concrete. Okay? That adhesive from the tape will transfer over to the floor, cover up the pores, and whenever you try to stain it or seal it, those pores are covered up and you're not going to get good adhesion from your sealer. Okay? Also, if you already have it sealed, oftentimes that tape, if you tape it right to that sealer, it keeps the sealer from breathing and it can bubble up and delaminate on you. So never put tape down to the concrete or to your sealer. Be very careful with it. All right, so we're gonna use power from the Demo Ranch Headquarters. You got the breakers on?
I turned them all on. Do you know which one it is?
Yeah, it's this one right here. This is load.
Oh, is that on? Catch.
No.
Oh, that's probably why the lights wouldn't turn on last night.
Possibly. This one feeds that.
Cool.
Right?
That's the one.
Ooh, first one too.
Nice job.
Full sheet. Full.
All right, so they're gonna install a full sheet right here, and that's where they're gonna start. We're gonna do drywall from that line, from here, that way is drywall. From there back is plywood. We're gonna go plywood from here to that corner, all the way around to where Hector's standing. Hector, by the way, brought the drywall to us this morning, so thank you, Hector.
You're welcome, you're welcome.
All right, here we go. See, Hector? It took two of us, and these guys do it by themselves. All right, so notice they put two pieces of drywall right there on the bottom to space it. It's that easy.
He's good at that.
Money.
All right, so you're gonna notice that they go right through the windows. And then they just come in and cut it out later. So what he did is he looked at the stud up there and just assumed there was a stud there, but there's not. It's right here. All right, fixing to get real here.
Dang, what's it called? Don't be crazy, Felipe. Don't be a hero.
Here we go. Doing drywall, you don't want the joints lining up one on top of the other. See how this joint's here, this one's over here, and then up there is here, so you never want them to line up. And also, as you saw on the windows, they just go across and they'll come back and cut it later. This one they already cut ahead of time. All right, so Matt's over there filming his video, but I think it's time. I'm gonna show him this. This is the sign for the Demolition Ranch Headquarters. That's gonna go right there. All right, I was gonna put it up and surprise him with it, but I think it's better if I surprise him while it's still off, just in case there's any chance that he doesn't like it. I don't think that's gonna be the case because I haven't seen what's in the box, but I have seen the mock-ups and the drawings, and I think it looks amazing, but I'm still gonna show it to him, so we're gonna do that here shortly. He doesn't know what I have back here, but I can only hide it for so long because once once it gets hotter today, this is where I keep my ice chest, so typically we tend to gravitate towards the back of the truck, and he's gonna see it, so I better show it to him. Matt, I got something for you.
What you got?
Come here.
I don't trust you.
That's okay. There you go.
Wow, it's amazing. Oh, that's sweet. That's really cool.
That's a 3D Demolition Ranch sign.
That's pretty awesome. Oh, it's heavy. That's pretty cool. So this will match the building too.
Yeah, so,
All black and silver,
yes sir,
black and gray.
that is meant to go up there.
Around the front.
Yeah, right there in the front.
I love
But
it.
wait, there's more.
There's more?
Open that one,
Oh, really?
right there.
I thought that was just extra.
They packaged it really well.
For real. Sweet.
So that goes with that.
Gotcha. That's cool.
Look at that.
It's better than Christmas. I spelled it wrong. Just kidding.
So we're gonna put this right up there, right in the front. What do you think?
Oh, that's awesome. That's gonna look so good.
And it matches the building colors and everything.
Perfect. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let me jump in here right quick. I just want to thank Travis Jumper and his students at Lewis and Clark Community College in Illinois. You guys did an amazing job on this sign. I mean, it looks even better in person than it does on camera. Trust me. Another thing that Travis wanted me to mention is that there is a huge shortage of people that know how to weld. There's just jobs that are just not getting filled, and you know, they're needing people that know how to weld. If you guys have seen my 3-part series on how I got started, you will realize that learning how to weld literally changed my life. It's still, when I look back, it's still one of the best decisions I ever made in my life. And that to this day has opened so many doors, and it continues to open so many doors for me. If you're trying to figure out what you want to do with your life and you enjoy working with your hands, go learn how to weld. The community colleges, they offer welding classes. Travis and your students, you guys did an amazing job. Thank you. So I brought my generator so that we could run the power tools, but we have solar now, and it's been running all day. We've been running the drills or the power tools from the just from the outlet here, and it's been doing really good. So now we need water, but we have the rain collection system in the back, but we don't have the pump hooked up yet. So we're gonna see if we can siphon some water out of there. All right, so we got the hose in the tank up there, and the way siphoning works is as long as we are below the water level, it'll drain, okay? You gotta put a little suction on the hose. So as I was saying, as long as the water, the end of the water hose is below the level of the water in the tank, it'll flow. And you can see how much it's flowing. And I'll show you what I mean. If I bring up the water, see, as I bring it up, it starts to, right there. That's how much water the tank has. I'll show you. This works just, this is how a water level works, by the way. Right there. See that? That's how much water this tank has. All right, we'll bring it back down here. We can get water out of it. So when we're done, we're just gonna pick the hose up and leave it up there We can always just come back later and keep getting more water out of it. Also, you don't want to pull the hose out of the tank on the other end. If you do, it'll suck air and then you're done. You have to prime it again. So if we need more water later, we'll just bring that hose down and it'll give us some more water. Then he uses glue on that. Put nails about every 16 inches or so. Alright, so you wouldn't notice that he's only doing rounded corners on 3 sides. The reason for that is we're going to put a 1x8 right here. Just a nice wood stool down here. It's just gonna look much better, and in my opinion, it's gonna last a lot longer too. I don't know, but I have a feeling people are gonna use it to rest things under. I don't know for sure. As you guys can tell, Felipe has been making great progress with setting the tape. So right now he's floating. This is called floating. This is the first pass. And the idea in tape and floating is you set the tape right where the joint is, all right? And then you want to float that joint. If you was to only set the tape right here in the middle and you only float it or just put mud right over the tape, you're gonna create almost like a speed bump, right? It would be very obvious, right? So then you wanna float it out, okay? You wanna feather it out so that it's not obvious, okay? So right now he's floating. After he's done, he's using a 45-minute quick set with fiberglass tape. After he's done, he's gonna come back and then he's gonna skim this again. And then he's gonna use probably a 10 or a 12-inch knife. Right now he's using an 8-inch knife. Come back with a 10 or a 12-inch knife and make this joint even wider, okay? Once that dries, he can come back, he can sand it down, and he can touch it up one more time. By the third pass, it should be done. If you really wanna check your joints, you can actually take a flashlight right here and shine the light, and you will see that it'll create a shadow. Now, these are all your screw holes. Those also need to be taken care of, right? Of course, these are a lot easier to do. They just skim right over the screw holes. This is the first pass. He'll give it another pass, and then on the third pass, it'll be either a very light coat, or if it already looks good, he can just run the sanding paper right over it. Now, on sanding, you need to be very careful. If you sand too much, this paper, you're gonna ruin it. He did all that by hand. Now he's gonna use a 12-inch box. So right now he's priming the pump. All right, so this is the box. All right, here we go. I don't know how to tape and float, so guess what my job is? All right, so one thing about me is I hate, and I mean hate, cleaning tools. I'm always gonna try to get out of it. However, if I ever do have to clean tools, when I'm done, they're gonna be the cleanest tools you have ever seen. So even if you hate doing something, you always have to give it 100%. Doesn't matter what it is. excellence above everything else, okay? So keep that in mind and you will be successful in life if you just maintain that mentality. All right, so I'm back at Demolition Ranch Headquarters, and as you guys can see, Felipe is done. Well, we still need a texture, but he went ahead and, like I told you, he did 2 more passes and sanded whatever needed to be sanded, and then he went ahead and primed all the walls. The reason for the primer, you want to prime before you spray your texture. That's going to allow your texture to go on there a lot nicer. Another thing I kind of touched on yesterday is using a light, and as you can tell right here, you don't see any shadows with a light, okay? If you have a light on here and you see shadows, that means you have joints that are showing. Another great place to check, which is extremely critical, is close to a window. For example, this was not that bad. The window's kind of in the center of the room, but if this window was closer to the wall and it shines a light out here this way, you need to make sure that that wall is perfectly well floated. Otherwise, you may not see it now, but once they paint that wall, depending on the paint that you use, it's gonna show. Anyway, some of those things that you need to be aware of. Me and Felipe are gonna start putting plywood on that wall. So Felipe and I just got done with the wood wall, and it's perfect timing too because the texture rig is just right now pulling up. Okay, Felipe got everything covered up while I went to go get them because they were lost. Got that whole plywood wall that we did. He's got it covered in plastic. He's got the doors covered in plastic, the windows, everything is protected because obviously we don't want to get textured on any of that. Also over here on the overhead door, he cut a slit down the plastic so they can come in and out. They have a fairly large texture rig, and you'll see, I mean, they'll knock this thing out in no time flat. We're gonna do a Monterey texture on this one. A lot of people also call it a knockdown texture. So what it is, they're gonna spray it fairly heavy, and they're gonna give it a few minutes to set up, and then they're gonna knock it down with these big blades. You'll see what I'm talking about here shortly. So this is where the texture gets mixed. All right, so they're done spraying. Like I said, it's that was gonna go pretty quick. Now they're gonna let it sit up for a little while, and they're gonna come back. They're gonna knock it down with these big blades. You'll see that here shortly. So right now the texture is still pretty wet. See that? If they try to do that right now, they would just drag it down. So that's not what they're looking to do. They're gonna wait for it to set up, and then they're gonna flatten it out. Still too wet right now. By the way, this is why we protect the floors. Very light touch.
Yeah.
So the other reason for priming the walls before you texture is that the mud actually soaks up moisture different than the paper on the drywall. When you prime it, it soaks up moisture the exact same, so that ensures that your texture is more consistent because the wall is going to absorb the texture at the same rate throughout the entire wall. If you don't do that, if you don't prime, you can imagine when they're trying to knock it down, some spots are going to be wetter than others. So that's going to be really hard to get a consistent texture if you don't prime your walls. They got it all textured, and as you notice, it didn't take long at all. Of course, they had a big rig, a spray rig, that makes really short work of this, as you saw. You can actually do this with a hopper, but it takes you a lot longer, and it is going to be extremely hard to get it as consistent as you can with a big rig like this, but it can be done, okay? So you've been following me for a while. You should know what we're gonna do next. So put in the comments if you think you know what we're gonna do next. And while you're there, give this video a like. Let's get this video up to about 5,000 likes or more. And I will see you next time. We are Texas Barndominiums.